Hey everyone, you're in the garden with Patrick. Well, actually, we're in Maribel's garden. We're one of the great things about this gardening is that you get to meet people, and we're in a Facebook garden group, and she had some cuttings that she wanted to share with me and of a fig tree. So we're going to show you how to take cuttings from a fig tree and propagate those and plant some more fig trees.
Hi everyone, my name is Maribel. This tree used to belong to my mom, Isabel, and so it's about, I would give or take 10 to 12 years old, and it's producing fruit, but it also needs to be cut so that way more fruit can grow from it. So here I am sharing, and let's make some more fig trees grow.
So there's two tools that I would recommend. This is just like a little hacksaw. You can get a specific saw, but this is what I had. I don't have a little saw that you can use on this type of cuttings, and of course you want to just get some hand shears like this. Depending on the size of your cuttings, you're going to use one of two of these. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. The cuttings that we're going to get a couple different ones, and you'll see that there's going to be some that are thicker, and I'm going to show you why you don't want to use your shears on your thicker cuttings. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, because this really needs to be pruned quite a bit, this tree. So I'm going to just go ahead and take the whole length of this little fig tree that kind of grew out of the roots here. So I'm just going to go ahead. Now when you're cutting, you want to cut in between. You could see these little nodes here, okay? And you're going to cut in between those nodes. So I'm going to cut kind of down right in here. There's one node here and one node here. I'm going to cut right there at a 45-degree angle, right in the middle. And that's what you're going to get. So we have one little cutting. We're going to show you how to do that in just a second. So if you can see here, this is going to be a little bit too thick to be cutting with my shears. So that's why we use the saw. But you can see here, these cuttings down here, these are a lot thinner. So we're going to just snip those off with the shears. Now we got a cutting here. A nice cutting there. And another one here. So that's how we're going to use our shears, and the difference of using your shears versus a little saw to get your cuttings. And next what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you can take these cuttings and then we're going to root them in some soil. So you can see that one of these trees, they're, the branches kind of got into the ground, and then it actually rooted itself and started growing some additional trees. So what we're going to do, we're going to experiment. I've never done this before, but it has a lot of roots on it. I'm going to stick this in the ground, and we're going to see if this will propagate into a nice little fig tree. All right, so thanks to our friend Maribel, we have plenty of cuttings here, okay? So we have a ton of these different types of cuttings. I have some long ones, some short ones, some thick ones. As you can see here, pretty thick. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you and give you some different tips on taking those cuttings and how we can use different methods, and we'll find out in the next 6 to 8 weeks or so how those different methods are going to work. So let's go ahead and give you a few tips first. The first tip, most importantly, is when you do get your cuttings, is that you're going to use the mature wood, okay? So what you can see here is you can see how the wood is pretty brown, and it's nice and it's pretty weathered, okay? So I don't have anything new growth on this, although interesting. I got a nice little fig right there on this, and you can see another one coming down at the bottom. But you don't want to have new growth. You can see maybe a little bit of the new growth here, but you don't want to use new growth where it's green. You might be able to see a little difference here You don't want to cut a cutting from here. You want to make sure that you're using the mature wood that's down in here. That's going to be the best for your success of your cuttings. And we're going to try doing 2 or 3 different methods, and we're going to see which one works the best. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this long cutting that we had when we were pruning Maribel's tree, and the goal is for you to have at least 3 nodes, or maybe about 6 to 8 inches of the cutting. Okay, so this is the node, as you can see here. 1, 2, 3 nodes at least. This has got 4, 5, 6, and 7 nodes on top of that. So we're going to use this one long cutting, and we're going to do 2 different methods with this one. Okay, so the first one is we're going to use 1, 2, 3 nodes. We're going to use 4 nodes on this one. I'm going to take my shears and I'm going to cut just about 1/4 of an inch or so, and I'm going to cut this one straight on the bottom. I'm sorry, straight on the top. Okay, and I'll explain that to you why I'm doing that here in just a second. So we're going to straight on that one, and then the second part. So this is going to be our top of our fig because we did the straight cut. And then on the bottom cut, you can see I did a 45-degree angle here, okay? Then what we're going to do to allow maximum absorption of the moisture, we're going to go ahead and score this. Okay, so let's make sure that way. And you don't have to score the whole thing, just a little bit, just enough to kind of allow that to allow a little bit more moisture into the cutting. Okay. So next we're going to take our rooting hormone, and what we're going to do is take that cutting and we're just going to put that cutting in that rooting hormone. So the goal of the cutting is to have enough moisture that's going to come in this area here where you're going to get your root development, and again, the goal is to have at least a minimum of 3 nodes. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes here. We're cutting it straight at the top to minimize the moisture loss, and we're cutting it at an angle to improve the moisture absorption, so that will help with root development. Now, some people will use a natural method by using honey and cinnamon, and that's another way that you can use instead of the rooting hormone or the powder. Again, the goal is to minimize, maximize, of course, the root development, but also what either the cinnamon and honey does, or the rooting compound or hormones will help to minimize the amount of disease, that funguses or any of that kind of thing that will develop on the tips of the root. So next, what we're going to do is we're just going to take it's a little bit damp, a nice damp paper towel. Okay, we're going to take that paper towel and we're going to wrap that in our cutting, okay, to keep that nice and moist. And then we're going to take that and we're going to put that in a bag to keep that moist. And we'll keep that moist for about a week minimum in this Ziploc bag. Okay, so I've got about 5 cuttings that we've done so far. We're keeping them in this bag. That'll keep it moist. And maybe in about a week or so, we'll take this out and we're going to put that in to a different medium. Now, what you're going to do is, if you follow below, I put down in the comments a link on how to follow this method. It's a new method, and you're going to take 2 plastic cups, basically, and 50-50 mix of vermiculite and perlite, and you're going to put that in this with your cutting. So you'll take your cutting out and you'll put that in there, okay, in that mix of 50-50, and then you'll put some holes, of course, on the bottom. This cup you'll just place here. You'll put the bottom cup with a little bit of water to about maybe up to here. That'll keep everything moist, and then that'll stimulate the root growth down into this median. So try that method and see if that works. That's one way of doing our cuttings. Now, The second way, real simple way, again, we're going to try this method out also, and we're just going to use a simple jar, and we have our cuttings. I'm still putting it in that root stimulator hormone. I cut it at a 45-degree angle still, and we scored it, okay? And we're going to take that cutting, we're going to put that in our jar with water to about up to here, and we're going to see the difference now. What I want to experiment with is, does it matter if we have just the stick cutting itself, or we're going to also take a few of these leaves, and we're going to also do the exact same thing, put the rooting hormone and put that in here. And we're going to see which one develops better, and then also that we'll see what our success rate is with using that. Once we're done with this here, we're going to take another bag, okay? And you want to take that bag, again, the key is that we're not losing moisture. So we're going to take that bag, and we're going to put a bag over this like this, and we'll seal that just like this, keep that water fresh, and it'll keep the moisture in there, and then we're going to see how that works with getting our cuttings. And in about maybe 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be able to put that into a pot. Now, this last method that we're going to experiment with to see how they work is, if you have any cuttings that are like in a V shape, or you have several different branches, like something like this, we're going to go ahead and cut, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the branches. And we're going to do a different method, a really interesting method that I saw online, but we're going to try. So I'm just basically cutting off all of the leaves from this cutting, okay? Just show you how we're doing that. And you can see we actually have a fig right there that's growing out of that node. So that's the kind of stuff that we're going to look at. Now we're going to cut that fig off because we don't want the energy to go into the growth and maturing of that fig. We want it to go into the development of the roots, right? So we're going to cut all these off. Now we have something that looks like this. Now what we're going to do this time is, instead of planting the traditional this way, think about all of the root structure, the structure that we're going to have. We're going to actually take this and plant this upside down. So we're going to take all of this part here, and we're going to put this into the ground, and that's going to be a massive root structure that we're going to be able to go with. Now we see here we've got a node here, 1, we've got 2, we've got 3, we've got 4 nodes, okay? And so we have enough nodes there for sure that we're going to be able to try that. So we're going to go ahead and I'll show you how we're going to put this into a pot. So just as we did with our small cuttings, we're going to do the same thing with this. We're going to cut the bottom, and we're going to score that just a little bit to allow the root growth. And now this is, again, part of the top, remember, of our fig tree, fig branch. So there's already a bunch of nodes that are there. And then we're going to take, again, our rooting hormone, rooting compound. I'm going to put that on the ends of our cutting, and that will help with the root growth. And now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and we're going to take this in our pot, and you can see I have a little bit of dirt, soil in there already, and we're going to put this upside down. Now you can see how this is going to become a very good root structure for our cutting. So we'll go ahead and fill this up with potting soil, and I'll show you the end. So this is the finished product. We filled it with soil, and now in about 6 to 8 weeks, this should start to grow some roots, and also should have some cuttings some new growth here from this cutting. And that should do well, and I hope that you subscribe to the channel. That will allow you, and hit that bell button so that every time I release a new video, we'll show you the progress of all these different methods that we've done, and I'll give you a better idea of how these are going to root or not root. And subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all your likes and sharing of this video. Until next time, happy gardening.